This morning, my name is Fred Indimuli. Big highlights. Congratulations to all the KCSE candidates 2023. Those who passed and those who did not do so well, there's still opportunity ahead. Don't lose hope.
Oh yes, I'm usually standing here in Ringita. Remember, reminds me back then during this particular examinations telling you read, but if not, utapata na tuna mwenye alipata A. Anyway, this particular morning we start on a low, a crash. The Nakuru Eldoret Highway will be giving you more details on that. This particular morning also we take a look at how you budget yourself personally, so that because we are in that particular month of 60 days, so how do you really budget your wallet and all that? But first to the highlights.
"15 people perish in fatal road crash at Twin Bridge area along Nakuru Eldoret Highway involving a bus and a matatu van."
Education Ministry launches investigation into massive failures into the 2023 KCSE examinations despite a new flexible system of computing final overall results.
And Franz Beckenbauer, who won the World Cup with West Germany as captain in 1974 and as manager in 1990, passes on at the age of 78. To our top story now. 15 people have died this morning in a fatal road crash at Twin Bridge area along the Nakuru Eldoret Highway. The incident, which occurred at 2:45 this morning, involved a bus belonging to the Classic Kings of Congo company and a Northways shuttle matatu van. Officers from the Mau Summit police station were the first to respond to the scene. Meanwhile, those injured have been rushed to the Molo Sub-County Hospital. The National Police Service is meanwhile appealing to all motorists to exercise extreme caution on our roads, especially during this time as schools reopen. Once more, 15 people have died this morning in a fatal road crash at Twin Bridge area along the Nakuru Eldoret Highway. The incident, which occurred at 2:45 this morning, involved a bus belonging to Classic Kings of Congo company and a Northways shuttle matatu van. Officers from the Mau Summit police station were the first to respond to the scene. Meanwhile, those injured have been rushed to the Molo Sub-County Hospital. The National Police Service is appealing to all motorists to exercise extreme caution on our roads, especially during this time as schools reopen. We'll keep updating you on the latest in this developing story.
Right, that particular accident also forms part of a news diary this morning. We'll be following up on that just to see from the police officers on the details and what actually transpired. But another bit of news diary this particular morning, the Kenya-Japan Quality Infrastructure Conference, which began yesterday and concludes tomorrow, also forms part of a news diary. The bit, the GSS teachers, interns, strike continues today. They promised that they will down the tools yesterday. This even as the government remains mum on this particular matter. We'll be following up on more details on the news diary. But then now to Today in History. And we start back in 2007, where Apple CEO Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone. A touchscreen mobile phone with an iPod, camera and web browsing capabilities, among other features, at the Macworld Convention in San Francisco. So iPhone users can take back down that memory lane since 2007. And back in 2005, ladies and gentlemen, the Second Sudanese War ends. As an outcome, the Southern Sudan is granted autonomy, and in 2011, South Sudan becomes an independent nation. That is on Today in History this particular morning. Let's dive into the papers this morning, and Fred, as anticipated.
Oh yeah, Kabarak leads in number of A's. Alliance is second. That's a big headline on the Standard today. This year's KCSE results were different in many aspects. Final grade was arrived at using new grading system. Learners improved in maths, and the number of underage went up by more than 4,000. Of course, as expected, this is the main story in all the dailies, and on the Standard, it has received quite some coverage on pages 2, 12, 14 and 15. And of course, most of the candidates are looking for their names and the names of their schools and probably even the faces. And just like we did with KCPE, you could just dig into the dailies and see if at all a face or name of a person you know has actually featured on the dailies. So once more, congratulations to all those who did well in the 2023 KCSE exam. And for those who are not very successful, not to lose hope.
Oh, yes.
Life still continues.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's some of us who are still here.
And yes, you're still here calling out your mathematics teacher, Teacher Martha Koapi. Anyway, let's do the honors and actually just read the list of the top schools. Yes. And according to the Standard tally, the top student is David Keru from Anesta Boys High in Nakuru. A little known school, but yes, doing very well. Clinton Muremi from Moi High School, should be Kabarak, Moroki Shadrach, Moi High School. And
Biruri, I think,
for the first.
Moi High.
No, the first two are Moi High School Kabarak.
Oh, okay.
Then there's Moi High School Mbiruri.
Okay, yeah.
There's another Francis Emmanuel Mumo from another Moi High School, should be Kabarak. Doris Waidera from Langa Mixed Secondary School. Schools in Nakuru are actually doing very well because Anesta, Moi High School Kabarak, and Langa all from Nakuru, and that's where I also come from. You know,
you had to throw it in somewhere.
Yes, another one from Moi High School, Mula Charles Mumo, and Camila Jebet Chiruyot from Kenya High School, more from Moi High School and others. And yes, Moi High School Kabarak tops with a number of A's, 62 in total, followed by Alliance High School, 54, Kapsabet Boys, Maranda High, Alliance Girls, and Kenya High in that order. The list continues. You can check it out on the front page of the Standard. Now, the number of candidates who sat the 2023 final exams were 899,453. And the total number of A's from that, 1,216. Congratulations once more.
Oh, yes. That's a front
If we could flip over away from matters KCSE and take a look at the countdown to the Africa Cup of Nations, which kicks off this Saturday, the 13th of January, to the 11th of February, just before that dreaded 14th day of February. And the countdown is 4 days to go, 4 days. Which AFCON team will leave fans smiling? Look at top 5 favorites to lift the AFCON 2023 crown in Ivory Coast, and they're looking at countries like Morocco, Senegal, Egypt, Ivory Coast, and Nigeria. Which one do you fancy?
Have you picked a team yet?
Not yet. Let's wait and see. Probably, I usually wait until we get to the last 16. It starts getting interesting from there.
So till, all right, but then probably the winner will come from out of this.
Yes.
I think probably I should go with Senegal. I went to Senegal in 2022, and it did me proud. Hopefully, Senegal might still.
Let's wait.
But then, fingers crossed. Oh, yes. On the front page of Daily Nation, still no other story, just the KCSE. Kabarak tops KCSE. Moi High School Kabarak walks away with this year's bragging rights in a list dominated by public, national, and extra county schools, according to results compiled by The Nation. So Kenya High had the best mean score by a girls' school, as some academic giants were shoved aside by newcomers. They have a special coverage on pages from page 2 all the way to page 14 and also on page 16. They also have photos there of some of the top performers regionally. Kabaji Elite John from Alliance High, Shedrack Kwashira Mithamo from Lenana, Nohiad Nadi Ohmar from Light Academy, Karanja Stephanie from Loreto High in Lemojo, Malcolm John Nazera Jamhuri High, got an A-. Maina Tiffany Wanjiru, Riera Springs, Ndinda Philip, Molatia Jamhuri, Alfred Mutua from Moi Forces, back in the day used to call it MFA, Kinyanju Christopher, Oirago Strathmore, Kamutu Memory Alliance, Ndula Jasmine Pangani, and Meshach Wabuje, St. Aloysius Gonzaga Secondary in Kibera with an A-. And on the left, there are photos of belated parents and teachers of Light Academy, and just below that, Nakuru's Langalanga Secondary School, carrying the very own Doris Waithera. And just below that, the very bottom scroll, they have by numbers the candidates who attained university entry points. So A's 1,216, A- 7,254, B plus 18,078, B constant 36,000, B minus about 59,000, C plus 78,343, all totaling to 201,133. And the very bottom scroll there, just a reminder, Mount Kenya University congratulates all KCSE 2023 candidates, just reminding them of courses and the annual text in January, May, and September. Flipping to the back page of Daily Nation, matters money now. Treasury borrowing up by 168 billion Kenyan shillings on low tax netted. So Treasury projects poor revenue performance during the year that ends in June 2024. And they have a number there, matters deficit, 886 billion Kenyan shillings, amount that Treasury now says it plans to borrow during the 2023-2024 financial year, up from the target of 718.9 billion Kenyan shillings. Another highlight that is on the right strip, Anti-Graft Agency urges MPs to reject bill on procurement officers. There's a quote there by EACC spokesperson, that is Eric Ngumbi. The commission calls for rejection of the other retrogressive bill by Mbeere North MP Geoffrey Ruku. At the very top scroll, that is sports there, Africa Cup of Nations. AFCON winning coach Belmadi tips hosts Cote d'Ivoire to go all the way as other coaches give their views ahead of the continental showdown on page 35. Yes, and yesterday we were questioning how come there's no buzz around the countdown to the AFCON 2024, and yes, at least this time around you can see you're starting to get the feeling that something is happening. So yes, the excitement probably in Kenya it has been dimmed by other matters. Politics and also now the KCSE. But especially for Kenya, when we're looking forward to hosting AFCON 2027, we better get excited and try and watch what exactly happens during such tournaments. True. Yeah. Because in 2027 now, our papers will really be filled with this. Yes. Before we move on to the next daily, let's once again revisit our top story this morning, where 15 people have perished in a fatal road crash at Twin Bridge area along the Nakuru-Eldoret Highway. The incident, which occurred at 2:45 this morning, involved a bus belonging to Classic Kings of Congo Company and a Northways shuttle matatu van. Officers from the Mau Summit Police Station were the first to respond to the scene. Meanwhile, those injured have been rushed to the Molo Sub-County Hospital. The National Police Service is now appealing to all motorists to exercise extreme caution on our roads, especially during this time as schools reopen. We've dispatched quite a number of reporters to that area to try and get us more details, and we'll bring you those details as soon as we get them. Moving on with
newspaper review. Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Majogoo wa KCSE, habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Waliong'aa shule za Kabarak High, Mudasa Academy, Kapsabet Boys, Light Academy Mombasa, Kenya High School, Chemelil Sugar, Kiagi Tumaini na Maranda zaibuka kidedea. Idadi ya wanafunzi idadi ya waliofuzu kujiunga na vyuo vikuu kwa kupata alama ya C+ na zaidi ni 1,133, hii ikiwa ni asilimia 22.27. Kwingineko, masuala ya spoti pale juu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Pressure kwa Arteta asajili striker mkali. Hii ni baada ya wanabunduki kufeli kushinda mechi 3 mfululizo, lakini hatuna wakati wa kudadisi maneno haya, kwa hivyo tutaendelea na vidokezo vingine. Kuna kidokezo zaidi, kuna kidokezo zaidi cha muhimu zaidi.
Kwa hivyo yamaanisha kuwa bado mnasaka
masuala ya muhimu,
bado mnasaka striker mkali.
Nyarigita, masuala ya muhimu sasa ni masuala ya elimu. Ndio tunasema top story, tunazipa kipaumbele. So kuna kidokezo zaidi kimoja hapa. Walimu 36,000 kupandishwa vyeo na TSC. Tume yasema imepokea pesa kutoka hazina ya kitaifa kutekeleza mpango huo. Habari yenyewe kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 4. Lakini pressure kwa Arteta asajili striker mkali, na tunaomba asikize.
Bukayo Saka yule bado anamsaka. Let's talk about money matters now on Business Daily. Cash-reaching firms reap bumper gains from rising interest rates. And they have a whole, they've tabulated all that there in different companies. And just below it, matters education, state funding. Pressure as over 200,000 score varsity grades. And they also picture that student from Langalanga Secondary in Nakuru. On the right side of the ticker, Treasury raises borrowing target by 168 billion Kenyan shillings. That is in matters economy. And just more on that story, the government has raised its borrowing target for the current financial year by 168 billion on projection of lower tax collection that has seen ordinary revenue forecast revised down by 210. Matters companies, Oryx Energies dropped from fuel import deal. And in matters markets, NSE best and worst performing stocks of 2023. If you're quite interested in matters security exchanges, you can take a look at that there on pages 14. At the very top scroll, finally, on the Life Pullout magazine, Road to Overcoming Shopping Addiction, on pages 19. And something related to that, we'll also be taking a look at having that fiscal discipline, just the personal discipline of walking into a supermarket and knowing it's January and you're seeing something that you always wanted, but you're having that discipline that
believe you me, there's a lot of discipline right now in January because there's no money.
You have to instill it by yourself.
This discipline should have come in December, when people are actually overspending. Anyway, interesting discussion coming up later on Morning Cafe. Now, the People Daily this morning has gone with a very interesting angle to the KCSE results for 2023, alarm of a high number of exam flops. Even as we continue celebrating those who performed well, concern over 690,000 students who failed to score varsity entry point of C+ and above. And you see, this is where we missed the point. We focus too much on the few who've done very well, exemplary, but you realize that the majority actually did not make the cut for university. And that's a huge concern. That's what's headlining on the front page of the People Daily. It is part of what we'll be discussing later on this show, so do stand by for that. That story has been covered in pages 2 to 7, even as a look at the big winners of KCSE 2023.
All right. You can't really access the star, so well.
Umetukazia the star.
Oh yes. Let's cross the borders to Tanzania and focus on another story here. Tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi. Mwendo kasi ni kizungumkuti. Masuala ya ripoti maalum pale Miaka minane tangu usafiri huo umeanzishwa bado haujakidhi matazamio ya watumiaji. Uchache wa mabasi wageuka mwiba kwa msongamano, kupoteza muda, waendeshaji wa utetea. Serikali yatoa neno. Vidokezo vingine katika gazeti lile hili pale chini, masuala ya elimu pia, tunakwenda kuanza shule. Na mzazi pale vaa shuka lile la Masai kiwasindikiza wanafunzi wawili kwenda shuleni. Umedokeza pia matokeo kidato cha pili, hesabu, sayansi, kengele ya hatari kidato cha 4 mwaka 2025. Pale juu, waumini wadai kunyanyaswa kingono kanisa la TB Joshua miaka 2 baada ya kifo. Chungu za usafiri wa treni Dar kupata tiba. Taarifa lingine katika kurasa wa 3. Hilo ndilo gazeti la Mwananchi.
Let's stay on in Tanzania and take a look at the Citizen. The big headline, lorry owners upbeat despite impending SGR competition. Tanzania Truck Owners Association chairperson Elias Lukumari said the body's members should not regard the standard gauge railway as a threat, but rather an opportunity to expand the operations. Beg your pardon, that's a big story there on the front page. Other stories given prominence on the front page of the Citizen. Task ahead for new NEMC chief. Elsewhere on that BBC film, TB Joshua raped and tortured worshippers. That story has been covered on the Citizen on page 5. And I think you mentioned it as well on the Mwananchi. And the highlights, quick highlights, chasing spark of personal growth amid challenges. Those are just some of the stories on the inside pages of the Citizen. But the big headline, lorry owners upbeat despite impending SGR competition.
Right, matters lands being the main headline in Uganda. That is on the front page of Daily Monitor. Government gives investors 8,000 acres of land. They call it a grand bonanza. Several districts have reportedly given Uganda Investment Authority land for industrial parks, which government officials say will lead to creation of jobs and expand the country's production base, on pages 6 and 7. And below that, they have photos of people in court, say murder in the city. Katanga widow, daughter now face arrest. As pictured there. And just below it, that bottom scroll, police now place 20 million Ugandan shillings bounty on Bugingo shooters. At the very top scroll, tenders, great deals there. And another interesting story here that also touches on Kenya on page 8. Confusion over Kenya's visa-free status for EAC. And they highlight it. Interestingly, Kenyan dailies haven't as much focused on the whole confusion of it as it now. So we wait to see how, again, obviously really affecting those coming into the country.
Oh yes, it is an interesting discussion about that visa-free status for EAC. Probably the reason why Kenyans are not really talking much about it is that it affects those people coming into the country, not those leaving. So yes. Mostly it's visitors coming in. Oh, yes. And our neighbors probably would be, although if you are in East Africa,
there's exemption of it.
Yeah, but how does it affect the regional politics and regional integration with the free visa entry? Well, those are the dailies. Let's take a look at the cartoons this morning.
The cartoon on page 16 of The Standard is quite a hilarious one this particular morning. Has to do with what is happening. What happened yesterday, the announcement of the 2023 KCSE results, and there's a truck there and athletes crossing that particular line and finish line, written KCSE 2023 results. Number 1 seems to be the national schools, followed by the extra county, and then the county. But then there's someone behind there, the sub-county, actually barefooted, This is quite a very interesting comparison. And the county athlete is saying, hey, you don't belong here.
Yes.
An
unwelcome inclusion into the competition.
Yeah. And the comparison is quite interesting, the whole start comparison. The national, the extra county, and the county, well, smartly dressed. They have shoes, probably the whole, new technology kind of shoes, but then the sub-county, tattered clothes, barefooted. But then they have to be on this race.
Interestingly, despite the disparity in resources, sub-counties are still challenging for some of the top accolades as well.
Oh, yes. Daily Nation, probably...
Page 19 of the Daily Nation,
Okay.
The cartoon is about what happened in the city center when Raila Odinga, the ODM leader, was celebrating his 79th birthday. And that intervention, if we may call it that, by police, who moved in to disperse a few people who had gathered to cut a cake in honor of Raila Odinga. And they say they are one step forward, two steps backwards. The kind of police action receiving some criticism there.
Oh, yes. Speaking of Raila Odinga's male leader, he forms the cartoon on page 10 of People Daily. And they have him there, a caricature that looks like Raila Odinga, and holding that sling there that when you were young we used to kill birds with. I'm curious, how do you call it in your language?
Fair.
Fair. I know that.
Or fundili.
And he's asking himself which method will be more effective. And there's a board there, BAMBA's 2024 diary. Number 1, Maandamano daily. Number 2, Punda Mechoka. Number 3, referendum. Boycott some products is number 4. Number 5, impeach Ruto. And number 6, swearing in Baba.
Those are the options for Baba.
Oh, yes.
He may have some other things under his sleeve. So you just never know. Today, our big discussion still focuses on matters education, the KCSE results. We'll be looking at some of the analysis and how it affects different categories of schools and parents. I'll be having in studio David Karani, member Elimobora Working Group, Special Needs Education. Nancy Munyi, founder and principal, Rare Gem Talent, which deals with dyslexia issues. And Frederick Otenyo, an educationist from the Kitangala International School. Do stand by for that conversation. Meanwhile, you can be part of it through our social media on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You're watching Morning Cafe. Before we take a break, let's once more recap our top story. Well, 15 people have perished this morning in a fatal road crash at Twin Bridge area along the Nakuru-Eldoret Highway. The incident occurred at 2:45 a.m. and it involved a bus belonging to Classic Kings of Congo Company and a Northways shuttle matatu van. Officers from the Mau Summit Police Station were the first to respond to the scene. They are still at the scene. Meanwhile, those injured have been rushed to the Molo Sub-County Hospital. The National Police Service is appealing to all motorists to exercise caution on our roads, especially during this time as schools reopen. And as we promised, we'll continue updating you on the latest from that incident. Let's now take a break. TV47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Just before we get down to the discussion, a quick recap of our top story this morning. It is still a developing story. 15 people have perished in a fatal road crash at Twin Bridge area along the Nakuru-Eldoret highway. The incident, which occurred at 2:45 a.m., involved a bus belonging to the Classic Kings of Congo company and a Northways shuttle matatu van. Officers from the Mau Summit Police Station are the first to respond to the scene. Meanwhile, those injured have been rushed to the Molo Sub-County Hospital, and the National Police Service is appealing to all motorists to exercise extreme caution on our roads, especially during this time as schools reopen. And we'll continue bringing you more details as soon as we receive them from that scene of the accident. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu yesterday officially released a 2023 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exam results at the Moi Girls High School in Eldoret, flanked by top education and government officials after briefing President William Ruto at the Eldoret State Lodge on the results. The CS revealed that President William Ruto has promised to hire an additional 20,000 teachers this year. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
Very, very welcome.
At an event hosted at Moi Girls in Eldoret, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu expressed the heightened anticipation surrounding the release of results initially scheduled for December 2023.
I will be releasing.
During the announcement, Machogu revealed that a total of 899,450 students sat for the KCSE exams last year, marking an increase from the 881,416 candidates who took the exams in the year 2022.
During the 2023 KCSE examination, a total of 899,453 candidates sat the examination compared to 881,416 candidates in 2022.
The CS highlighting that 201,133 candidates, equivalent to 22.27% of those who sat for the 2023 KCSE, achieved the minimum university entry qualification.
The number of candidates who attained the minimum university entry qualification this year, C+ and above, was 201,133, which was 22.27% in the year 2023.
Furthermore, among the students, 1,216 secured an A grade, showcasing an improvement from the 1,146 A grades recorded in 2022.
There were 1,216 candidates, which is 0.14%, who obtained an overall grade A in the year 2023. Breaking
down the results, 526,222 students scored a D+, slightly higher than the 522,588 in the year 2022. Additionally, 92,612 students attained a C and 107,471 scored a C-, while 155,276 achieved a D and 165,861 received a D-.
Use the members.
However, there was a concerning number of candidates who scored an A, totaling 48,174, prompting Machogu to call for an immediate investigation to understand the reason behind that.
I'm also pained by the fact that a large number of candidates, 48,174, or 5.33%, still ended up scoring a mean grade of E.
The CS added that 4,113 candidates were reported for engaging in exam irregularities, leading to the cancellation of results for 4 candidates.
Humble duty to...
In his speech, Machogo reiterated that the new grading system played a pivotal role in ensuring a smoother transition for more students to universities and other tertiary institutions to pursue their courses. Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Duty to...
We do apologize for that slight technical hitch, but let's now move on to the discussion. This morning, we're privileged to have in studio Nancy Munyi, founder and principal Rare Gem Talent, which caters for learners with dyslexia. Karibu sana TV47.
Thank you very much, Edmuri.
Yes, and next to Nancy, we have Frederick Otenyo, an educationist from the Kitengela International School. It's good to have you at TV47.
No, thank you.
Now, we're going to have a discussion on what really is happening to our education system. Yes, we are celebrating a lot of these wins, but the Education Ministry, as mentioned in that story, has already instituted a probe into what it calls mass failure, because there's something to be said about an education system where out of 900,000, only 200,000 meet the mark to actually go to university. And this is across board, including private institutions. It is captured very well on the front page of the People Daily. We do not have the People Daily with us, but I do have the e-paper. And on the front page of the People Daily, they talk about alarm of a high number of exam flops. 690,000 students fail to score varsity entry point of C+ and above. And let's start with you, Nancy, because even as a manager of an institution, yes, as a principal, this may have to some extent affected you in one way or another. What is your assessment of this education system and the fact that this is a system that's supposed to be producing Kenyans into the workforce? Yes, but you're seeing it's producing more failures than those who succeed.
Coming from the special needs area, I sometimes feel that some assessment is not done well as the children are getting into transitioned to high school, and also the support that is given to many of the students who have special need, especially like the ones that we take care of. I feel that there are so many factors that leads for not getting support, and therefore when we are having them being assessed in the final without the support, we expect to have such kind of failures. But if these children were given better support, those who have, especially those who have ease, we have seen quite a number of students in the population in school is so high that the teachers are not able to get to each and every student. And therefore, you expect that if they have some kind of learning need and they're not getting the support, then they will not get perform as we expect. Then there are also other factors, like during the time of exam, so many things happen, like maybe it is the time we were experiencing the El Nino, and therefore some of the children who were prepared to do the exam, they were affected by not getting the exam in time, or other factors like that. Some other factors like we have marginalized areas, and in fact even in private school, as much as we would even look at, before we used to have many children from private school performing very well. I feel like because of the assessment and support, that could help. That could be the cause. That.
Do you, for example, feel that the system of assessing students should not be one universal one? That there should be special systems to cater for different groups? For example, you cater to learners with dyslexia.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's fair for them to be subjected to this kind of hula baloo that we're seeing, that we're talking about those people who got A's on the front pages today?
Yes, like I would give a live example. We had a student who we expected that would perform very well, but just before the exam he was admitted in hospital, and he was discharged from the hospital just the day he was, they were doing just one day before the exam. What would you have expected from such kind of a child?
And this is a student who had previously been performing very well.
Yeah, in fact, we expected that he would get better results, but now he didn't do, because we know he had not well recovered. If there was a platform or a system where he could be, okay, he has studied, but he could be given a situation where he could do the exam a bit later. Like not having one day, like all of us, it doesn't matter where you come from. Those who are doing, who are in a better place, like in Nairobi. There are others who are in Lamu and the northeastern, where we are experiencing some crashes. These children are subjected to one, like, it is one star, it fits for all of them. It is really unfair, and I think it is the time that we should come to. We are at the age now that we need to give the children their study. It happens somewhere else, not that it will be the first one, yeah. And
we'll come to that discussion about this culture of ranking. But before that, Bonotenyo, 48,000 E's. If you look at that, it's about 6% or so.
Yes.
Some may argue that in a normal curve, yes, you will get such. Do you believe that this is normal?
First, I want to offer my commiseration to the 15,001 that have perished in the fatal crash. May God rest their souls in peace. So it was a good day yesterday as Mashogu, the CS for education, announced the results. But the system seems to have so many challenges, because if you look at from the statistics, 48,000 is, so it means that if they would not have proceeded to secondary, then they would have been better off, because they are offered in artisan courses. Maybe I can attribute the failure to so many factors. Remember, these are the COVID kids. They joined Form 1 with COVID 2020, and then what happened? The schools closed down. They came back. Actually, it's only fourth year that they had taken a full year course. So I believe that maybe with that, it could have affected. Other factors that could have affected the performance. The government has not also maybe done enough, because if you try to assess schools, for example, if you look at the statistics of yesterday, the extra-county, sub-county, and county schools produced less number of A's. But then when it comes to the national schools, they also did well. However, it's not a true reflection, because as we talk about the E's, we look at the top performing schools. If you would look at the national schools, when they admit learners, they take 400 and above. That's the clean A. But if you look at the performance, it's not clean A at the end of it all. So I will also ask the government to, first of all, work on the teacher rationing, and number two, let the learners have adequate facilities.
Okay.
Yes.
But they say that in every such undertaking, there will be those who are on the extreme ends. Yes, the A's are about 1,200, but the E's are 48,000. Do you see, is it a proper balance?
It's not a balance.
It is not.
The failures are more than those succeeding.
So the system mistake.
Yes. There are questions definitely to be asked, but do you think a probe, what kind of probe, what kind of result do you expect from a probe like the one instituted by the Ministry of Education, that yes, we're going to investigate to see what happened to those E's? Do you think such a probe can actually result in any meaningful resolution?
I think it will, okay, even if it is going to bring, my expectation is that we have been having the same probes, and what the result will be the same about the teachers, the rationing, and the infrastructure.
So the problems are known already?
The problems are known. So I think if we look at the preparedness of the teachers, I don't want to say that they are not really prepared, but the population, the teacher-people ratio, it should be increased. And I'm happy that the CS talked about employing more teachers. I think that is the way we need to go. Yeah.
Okay. After the break, we'll be looking at a lot more issues, including Form 1 selection, and because sometime in December we were talking about the kind of schools that people prefer to go to. And this is where everyone, all the private and national and public schools prepare their students towards attaining a grade to join those schools. And it is for good reason. Those are the schools you're seeing on the front pages today. I will be looking at that and a lot more, including the fact that about 3,000 people registered for KCSE but never really showed up. And that is part of what the government will be investigating. Don't go too far. You can be part of this conversation on our social media, on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Indimuli. We want to continue with this discussion around the KCSE 2023 exam results. But before that, let's take one more story. 7,000 2023 KCSE candidates who failed to sit for the national exam face the risk of losing admission to the secondary schools. Or rather, KCP candidates who failed to sit the exam face the risk of losing admission to secondary schools as the Ministry of Education lacks information on their whereabouts. Speaking during the release of the 2023 KCSE results, the Education CS, Ezekiel Machogu, revealed that out of the 9,000 students who skipped the exam, only 2,000 have been traced. This begging the question, where are the remaining 7,000 students? Andrin Kilemi explores this.
Besides the release of the 2023 KCSE examination results Monday, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu had another key announcement to make.
When I released the KCPE examination in November 23rd, 2023, November, I promised that the Kenya National Examination Council would administer a supplementary examination for 9,000 candidates who failed to sit the examination. Upon further audit and scrutiny of the number of candidates who actually failed to sit the examinations, the Council has only been able to trace 2,000 eligible runners.
This implies that 7,000 candidates registered for the 2023 KCPE were not identified in the government system and as a result could be at a risk of losing opportunities for admission to secondary schools.
Since the number so far allocated is small to warrant the national examination, it has been decided that the 2,000 candidates join Form 1 starting January 8th, January 15th, that is next week, and be allowed to sit qualifying examination later.
So just where are they?
They will either be advised to ensure they sit the individual qualifying examinations by the time they join Form 3 to enable them to be registered to sit the KCSE examination at Form 4. I direct the Council to release further guidelines regarding the entry examination.
What the education boss, however, failed to reveal is the fate of the other 7,000 students who are registered in the government's portal, failed to sit their national examination, but remain untraceable. Machogu further announced that grade 6 learners who sat the KCSE exam will receive their results in the next 2 weeks. He emphasized the importance of the results for educators and parents to track the academic progress for pupils. At the same time, the first cohort of learners under the competency-based curriculum will transition to grade 8 under junior school, while another cohort will be transitioning to grade 8 in 2025 and is expected to pose a massive strain on existing infrastructure. Andrin Kilemi, TV47.
Let's continue with the discussion. We're still in studio with Nancy Munyi, the founder and principal of Rare Gem Talent, which caters to learners with dyslexia, and Frederick Otenyo, an educationist with the Kitengela International School. Joining the panel now, David Karani, member Elimu Bora Working Group, which deals with special needs education. Karibu sana and good morning. You found us right in the middle of a discussion on what most of the dailies missed. You look at the front pages today and it's accolades and celebration, but the People Daily captured it perfectly. And it says, at the front page of the People Daily, this is a headline, alarm of a high number of exam flops. This is a system that had over 900,000 candidates, and out of that, 690 did not meet the cut for university. Actually, 48,000 scored the minimum grade, which is E, despite a new grading system, which is supposed to have improved this, and the Ministry of Education has already instituted a probe into what it calls a mass failure. But from your own perspective, what do you make of a system that produces more failures than those who are successful?
Thank you for having me, and apologies for being a bit late. Actually, let me first of all correct. Elimu Bora deals with the whole sector of education, but now I'm the special needs education advisor. Actually this morning I'm looking at the dailies, and I'm really wondering the education sector is in limbo. What actually, right now, it's a cry. The education sector is actually calling out for help. What happened, the results that were released is actually a show of how we've neglected the education sector. Having a new grading system, which they're actually trying to see how they can be able to help the learners still getting those kind of results, is actually something that actually everyone should be worried about. Every player in this sector should be worried about. And I talk about every player in this sector, I'm talking about the three-legged stool which the education is. There's the student there, there's the teachers, and then there's the parents, government, and the community. Because actually, when you look at it, the people actually, it's not the learners who have failed. It is actually the community, the learner, the parents, and actually even the government has failed these learners. It's us who failed them. Because actually, it was for now government, parents, and the community to actually see how they would actually help these learners. Because most of these learners, we were told where the A's were from. We were not told where the E's are from. And without any playing around, we know where the E's are from. We know the E's are from those small community schools that don't have infrastructure, that don't have teachers. Those schools that are just opened with politicians for the sake of just having a school around the community. You cut, maybe the former primary school has an acre. You say half an acre will be for the high school and half an acre will be for the primary school, without actually doing the due process, actually looking at what is needed for a secondary school. So this has been actually what we've been doing for the longest time.
Is it a system failure? Because the education is supposed to be the equalizer. It is what equalizes society, that even those who are from well-off backgrounds, those who are from the other lower end, it's only education that can actually stabilize and strike a balance. That when we see that only, this is less than, it's actually about 5%. About 20% of students are actually able to meet the mark for university. The rest are failures. Then it's a system that we cannot say is striking that balance, don't you think?
Yeah, let me come from another school of thought and think of what do we call, why do we think that is have failed? What measure did we use to put them and they say these ones have passed and these ones have failed, without looking at the background of where the child or the child is coming from, where we give them equal examination for all without regard of where they are coming from. So as from the perspective that we are coming from different background, we are coming from different preparation, and we are also coming from different mindset, especially in terms of like the community we are coming from. Some of the students have better platform, they have everything that they need. Others, they don't have as even teachers, and there are some students who are like family leaders. They are out there and they are put together to do the same exam. What do you expect? So that's why I'm saying, even if we think about them having failed, and we can't give a horse the same race to do with a tortoise in terms of the facility, and then we say that the tortoise has failed.
But from an educationist's perspective, we appear to have slowly, and by now we've gotten to a very high level of this, to have commercialized education to a point where it is only for those who have the money who can actually attain good grades. Proper grades purely due to the kind of resource invested. And you look at the disparity and you can actually see it very clearly. This is a systemic failure. How can a society expect that an education system with such disparities is what will produce the next working force for the nation?
Oh yes, it's a systemic failure. However, the government has not really done enough. Because when you say about commercialization, it's true. You find that a student wants to go to, for example, maybe I'll go with Moi High School, which is a private school. But when given another chance to go to another national school, they will go for those national schools that have all the facilities. For example, you find that most schools will go for, like Kapsabet is doing well. But based on the services that are, based on the resources that are available, they will opt for that school. But when it comes to other national schools, I'll ask the government if it is possible, let all national schools be the same, all sub-county schools be the same in terms of facilities.
But how do you strike that balance? Because the culture is already there. We're already ranking the schools. If you look at the private schools right now, the competition is on who can produce especially at the primary level, who can produce, at least up until the last KCPE. The system is changing and we'll come back to that. But the issue has always been, you're selling the number of A's you have because those A's are the ones that will go to these schools. You look at the Form 1 selection and the number of students who wanted to go to the top 10 schools exceeded by far the number of slots available. Are we saying that we cannot improve schools, other schools to the level whereby they can accommodate other people? Because if at all, out of 10,000 positions, everyone, 4 million candidates, or 1.4 million who sat for last year's KCPE, 1 million of them want to go to 10 schools. How can that system work, really?
I think this is where now the big problem comes in when it comes to funding. For the longest time, civil society has been talking about capitation, release of capitation on time, to ensure that actually schools can be able to run properly. In terms of equipping teachers, the schools that don't have teachers. There's few schools who have more resources than others. It's something that is in public domain. There are schools that actually, the other day we saw Alliance High School being added money already to, I don't know, to build a church or something. Well, other schools are struggling. We have schools that have excess teachers in this country, things that people don't want to talk about. There are teachers who don't want to be transferred to other schools because they prefer being in specific schools. So the issue of learners getting quality education has been something that civil society has been trying to push for the longest time in this country. And the only way we can be able to actually put government to account is when the common mwananchi comes in the management of schools.
Yet the capitation is the same across board. All public schools receive the same amount of money across the country, depending on the number of students there.
What time? Right now they're talking about, I don't know how many billions. Schools are in arrears already. When they're talking about these monies, they'll say it has been released. Today, if we go to those BOM meetings, the school management boards, they'll tell you we've not seen the money. Principals will tell you, money was released, we don't know where it is. So releasing and I don't know what happens in between there. They'll make announcements, and this government has been good in making public announcements. But we need to go back and now start saying how much has been released per student. This wholesome amount of just saying we are releasing billions, we should go down and say now, for the last, like now, the schools that have not received capitation for second term last year, we're going now to a new year. They're talking about billions being released, exciting the common mwananchi, but when it comes back now to people who are actually in the education sector, they're looking at it and wondering, what happens now?
Is it an issue of culture? Because this has happened over a very long period of time. What we are seeing now is what we are used to. We're trying to get away from this culture of ranking. But where we have been, if at all a student, and you're talking about individual capitation, if at all a student at Alliance High School is getting the same amount from government as a student from another public school, probably in Kakamega, how come Alliance is still able to survive and still maintain that kind of performance, despite, it's not that the government gives Alliance High School money earlier than anyone else?
The Alliance is given the opportunity to select their students, the first one, so they take the top cream, okay, we can say those with 400 and above. And I go back to say that this culture of cheating in exam, it's not ending soon. If all the schools, all the students are struggling to get to Alliance, and the primary school that have so many children go to Alliance, it's seen like the best school in the environment or in our neighborhood. What will make a primary school not do anything to have students go to Alliance school? So the culture of cheating in the exam, if the lazing and putting the student who have done very well, praising them, giving them everything, and we see them like being raised in the television and parties being done, and the schools get out with the buses showing that we have had this 400 and all that, and saying that we have this number of children who have gone to Alliance, to Kabarak, to this. So every school, even the small ones, the small schools who want to get there.
You see that culture changing, because yes, we've had the last cohort of KCPE, and this year do you see that culture changing?
But talking about Alliance, already this student came in with an A.
Yeah.
What actually the teacher is trying, what the teacher is doing is actually just guiding this learner who's already done so well. So actually, I'm not trying to say that we don't celebrate this, but let us go back and look at that teacher who is working with a student who had 180 marks to actually allow that to actually guide that student to a C+. That is a teacher who requires a lot of resources, requires money on time, because sometimes they're working on very difficult areas. The learner may not have a lot of resources even from where they come from. And these are the teachers, these are the heroes, actually. I'm not trying to say we don't celebrate. Those who have done, they've done really well. It's actually something to celebrate. But also let us look at those learners who actually attained very low marks. But when they joined higher school, the teachers guided them. The Harambee schools, those schools in the villages, where now it becomes now individual effort. Because you see, sometimes even those learners, the equipment that they have there, the laboratories are there, they would not even see. Yeah. So
if we get rid of this ranking culture, what we are seeing now on the front pages, because that's where we are heading slowly. At least that's what we aspire to, from the level of primary education. No more ranking with CBC, and I've heard KCSE results will be coming out next week. We don't expect this kind of hulabaloo. Yes? Once we get to the level of high school and we're no longer seeing the kind of ranking every year at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year, we're not seeing any ranking, we're no longer saying Kabarak is a top school. Do you think that can change this trend where schools across the country now have the same playing field? They all feel empowered enough that teachers can work extra hard across board, not just in top schools, to actually empower and prepare their learners for university?
Yes.
If we do away with this culture.
Yes and no. Because you will find that most teachers in those national schools, they are also working to maintain the name of the school. So when they are out in the newspapers, it is now the glory of the teacher.
What if at all we no longer have them on?
Now, I said also yes, and then on the other side, if we don't, I feel like those giants might also again go back to sleep, because they will say, if, for example, KCSE, whether I pass or I don't pass, I will still proceed. So they will also say, because we are all the same, and no one will know how we have done, but I know the duty of a teacher is to make students do well. They will still do well. But I believe also the ranking is not a good thing. I liked when CS released the results yesterday, because there was no those hulabaloo. But what if we have released before the Christmas? Buses would have been all over celebrating the.
They're still celebrating. But
the good thing is not that much compared to if they would have been released earlier. Because
what do you think, Bonakarani? Do you think if we get rid of this culture of celebrating and ranking schools on the front pages, that it could actually change the way we look at education in Kenya?
The issue is not ranking. I think the issue is commercializing education. Because the minute we now start looking at the number, because everyone is looking at the school. Like, no offense to any private school, but they are trying, see, this is marketing already. a top headline like this is more than enough.
On 2 dailies?
Yeah, it's more than enough for any parent to want to join that school. The problem is not them. They are doing their work. They're doing well, and which is good. But now, the minute now we go back and start now telling our learners that actually competing, we need to have this ranking and this ranking. The pressure goes back now to the learners. It's no longer CBC. Like CBC, what CBC is trying to do is to getting rid of that, where every learner can actually, because every learner can learn. Even those in those small schools can actually celebrate what their achievements in now, like KCSE, what CBC is trying to do.
What we will see at the end of this year, because with KCSE, we do not expect to see.
We do not expect this kind of.
Do you think that will change the game?
It will really change the game, because CBC is now trying to actually empower individuals, which is very good. Also from my perspective, where I work with learners with special needs, where you'd find maybe a learner is very good at 1 or 2 things, but not able to do other things. The teacher can actually look at the strength. But now we go back to the issue of how prepared are we? In terms of now, we see JSS teachers now claiming the learning areas have been fused together. Some of the teachers don't even have the strength of those, even the qualifications. Somebody who has had 2 learning 2 areas is being forced now to do other areas. The JSS teachers are complaining. So we are just asking ourselves, 844 is ending, but now are we?
And as far as primary education, 844 is gone. We expect the CBC, but before we even look at the CBC, because we address this issue about this system not catering adequately to the kind of needs of this country. Do you think that a system where we no longer rank and we get rid of the competition, as we are hoping we have done with the end of KCPE and now KCSE, which we're going to see at the end of probably grade 9, because this year there'll be no national exam at the end of grade 8. What will happen?
And the school will still be there.
What do you expect? Do you think that will have actually changed the game?
I think it will actually change the game, and I'm liking what CBC is doing, because it is going down to individual child and to elevate those who are giving focus on an individual child, giving focus on the school or the teacher that is working with an individual child. The ranking is not just had started happening not long ago. In my time, there were no ranking, and we still did well, and we still produced doctors, lawyers without the ranking. The ranking has come, and has come with some kind of, I want to call it madness, because now everyone wants their children to go to a specific school, and therefore we are killing each other to produce students to go to that school. That means that now when the CBC comes, an individual child is given focus, and as he's saying about the competition and everything is given to individual school, levelizing those national schools and the district schools, giving them same opportunity, children getting to neighborhood school, not having to go to, you want to go to Alliance because it was found in the paper 2 or 3 years, and now everyone want to go there, leaving the school that is your neighborhood and denying it the capitation, because the population goes to those big schools, and there is not so many children in the district school. I think there is going to be equal ground for all the schools.
That is what we are hoping will happen. But are we getting it right? And now let's talk about CBC, because you've brought it up. And we are seeing the first cohort, or the debutants of the CBC. They have joined grade 8. But as it is, they don't have teachers, because the teachers have down their tools. For 2 reasons. The contracts have not been catered for as had been promised. Secondly, the learning areas, what we may call knee-jerk policy decisions in lumping together learning areas, which is causing problems. We've already had 1 year of junior secondary school, where questions about even the curriculum, even about the clarity of the curriculum have been raised. And now we are seeing 1 year on, we're still debating on where the JSS should be domiciled. Are we handling or are we mishandling education? We may have hopes that this is what is going to remedy this situation.
I want to just maybe cut you short and say I am a product of the first class 8, 844. I did standard 7. I didn't do standard 7 because when I was in standard 7, we were to close over to, we did standard 8. During that time, there was all these things that we are seeing. There was no clear path about where we are, what we are doing. But actually now, 844 has been there for how many years? And it's the one we are discussing. We don't want to move now from 844 to CBC because of all the things that we are saying, teacher preparedness, capitation and all that, and all the land.
I think this confusion is part of the process.
I don't want to say that. I think we have to have
I think education,
and we have to.
Okay.
Do you think that we would have it perfect if we were to try it?
Okay.
I think education is one of those areas where we don't need to experiment. There were policy papers that were done. There are experts that sat down and came up with CBC and where it should be domiciled. We saw the route of government coming in and doing a popular decision to domicile JSS in primary school. Classes were built at the high school level. The high school level was prepared to receive these learners. Laboratories were there.
Trained at,
yeah, the laboratories were there. But now we say we don't need to do experiments in education.
Let me get your perspective, Otenyo, on this.
Yes, thank you. I think the government needs to work hard for JSS to pick up. Because one, look at the teachers. Do we have enough teachers? You tell a teacher you will work for 1 year contract on internship, then all of a sudden, you tell them, no, it will now be 2 years. So you either sign the contract or you leave it. Number two, let's look at the structures. You see, education is either it is there or not there. Because if you don't have a class, then what happens? The learning will happen maybe under a tree, or there will be no learning. So if it is not there, it is not there. Let's look at the issue of textbooks. All of a sudden, it changes, it merges the learning areas. So the grade 7, or the grade 7 had learned different areas. Now we tell them we'll now merge them. So what about the textbooks? Where will those textbooks that were there, where will they go?
Yes.
So if we have the few resources, let's utilize them well.
The question is, because the JSS was very key in this new system. It is a bridge between primary and the high school, and the JSS was supposed to prepare learners for pathways, not for examination. And that by the end of these 3 years, by grade 9, they're clear about, am I pursuing the arts? Am I pursuing the sciences? What exactly is my strength? We already have seen 1 year go by. Should we still say it is part of the process, that the confusion, however long it lasts? Because this cohort has been disadvantaged. 1 year is already gone. They're starting their second year of JSS. Teachers are on strike, and their curriculum is still not clear. Are we certain that by the end of grade 9, this JSS will have served justice to this particular cohort of learners?
Yeah, I think that government has to do so much to make sure that the confusion it's clear, and but I don't think we have an opportunity to go back. We have to forge forward, making sure that all the handles that we are getting on the way, they are taken care of, without having to politicize it. We look at education as the backbone of bridging the gap between the poor and the rich, and focusing on if a country does not take care of the education, then we are doomed.
And the question probably is, do you feel this particular, and if we could tie it to politics, do you feel this administration, the Kenya Kwanza administration, is giving proper attention?
I think we have a lot of politics about it, and this is not the way we need to go. The politics should be put aside, politics, and education be focused.
It was clear yesterday. It was clear yesterday when the CS was releasing the examinations. I don't know why politicians were being given time to talk in an education sector. This is purely education. I don't know why Senator.
They are the policymakers.
The policymakers. After they've done the policy, they let it now to the ministry to do its work. This is it's not an issue where now politicians start saying, oh, we are seeing improvement in this. Those are issues they need to discuss in Parliament. But now when you go and you are announcing the results and you allow politicians to come in, politicizing the process, when you allow politicians to be working with KCSE employment letters, dishing them out, we are going to return this country now to an era where teachers are just being employed left, right, and center without taking the proper channel.
From a civil society perspective, is there a sense of concern about the direction that our education system is taking? The handling or mishandling of education, as it were. If we could go back in history and look at successive governments and their handling of education, many of them have actually put education at the very forefront. President Daniel Moi was called an educationist. He talked about, and for him it was empowering the girl child. And that's why you see all Moi High School, Moi girls everywhere. And he did that. Then Kibaki came and he ensured the free primary education was his flagship, and within 7 days it was there. Uhuru Kenyatta came in, and the Jubilee government, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, they were talking about laptops from the campaign period. Now we come to Kenya Kwanza and we are struggling to see where they're placing education. Is that where the problem is?
We're worried. As civil society, we're worried. When you hear announcements that, like Bell Kipsang was talking about, not being able to actually fund free education, that is not an option. That is something that is in the Constitution, that every child has a right to free and basic education. So that should not be an option. It should be something you think about. It should be something that you make plans to ensure that these learners can actually get that. When you start talking about politicization, when you see MPs talking about CDF, so that they can give bursaries, instead of talking about capitation, why do you want more money on bursaries instead of demanding more money to go to schools in terms of capitation? You want to be carrying goodies so that when you go out, you say, I'm dishing out bursaries. What is the need of actually this tokenism that you want to actually return our country to? You go demand for bursary, for you to be carrying letters, and actually, like what we saw yesterday happening in Kisii. Why should our people be allowed to be fighting to access for bursaries? We need to go back and actually, even in Parliament, and tell politicians, it is an issue of us discussing about capitation getting to schools on time. This issue of wanting to carry goodies so that you can go and tell people, I'm calling people for bursaries. Let's not return this country to where now following politicians for favors in the education sector.
Okay. Nancy, are you confident now that you cater for learners with special needs? Are you confident? Looking at the kind of disparity, even for learners who do not have special needs, and you can see quite a huge chunk is already disadvantaged by the system as it is. Are you confident that where we are heading, that even those learners with special needs will be catered for? Are we going towards a positive area, or are we still mired in confusion as to whether or not this new system is going to be the remedy?
Well, I want to compare between what used to happen and what is happening. There is a lot of conversation about special need, and it is being taken positively. I want to thank the government for that. I want to thank everybody in the system, in the education system, because we are seeing a lot of conversation about supporting children with special need. And I think with just a mention that we are having this, there is a positive move. Beside that, however, I think also that there is so much need to effort need of effort to not just mention, but to be seen working on towards supporting children with special need. We have so many schools with special units. We have many teachers now being trained on special need. But my fear is that those who are graduating with special need, they are not employed. Mm-hmm. And even if they are going to be employed, we find that...
Why are they not getting employment? Does it have to do with the grading that you're looking at, or the ranking? This A, B plus system? Is that the reason why?
It is the reason, and it is partly is the reason, but still we have a backlog of teachers who have not been employed, and most of the teachers with special need are in the field, and they're looking for some jobs in private schools. That is disadvantaging the public schools, where we have special needs units. You find like a school with a special need, with a special unit, has either one teacher or no teacher, and the population is still high. So as there has been conversation and there is this positive move, we are still having so much, there is a lot of gap in terms of personal support and the teachers. And still, we are not there in training quite a number of teachers. We still need more teachers with special need in the field. Yeah.
Let's talk about private institutions now that you've mentioned that. And when at the beginning of 844, close to 40 years ago, education was mostly a government job.
Yes.
It was basically public institutions. Very few private institutions were present then, but someone noticed a gap, and they noticed a business opportunity and took advantage of it. That is what has resulted in what we see. They created a business of generating proper grades to take advantage of the few positions in national schools, and hence we're seeing this. This is going to change with the CBC, or at least we hope it will. Do you think that it will, the fact that we have done away with the KCPE, at least for now, because KCSE we're going to have it for the next 4 years or so, that with KCSE, this will change the game even for private institutions. That lack of competition could return education basically to the public sector.
No, I don't think it will do so, because look at the public sector in the government section. The JSS, look at the teachers they are employing. 2 to teach, like how many learning areas? 7 learning areas. But when it comes to private, they try to look at the money that the parent is paying versus the value that the parent gets. So it will even create the gap, according to me. If the government continues this way, it will even create that gap to be worsened. Because now, look at the current JSS. Most private schools are ready. I wonder why the government will tell a private school, before you start offering JSS, you must have like 5 graduate teachers. You must have like 2 classes or 3. Labs should be ready. You should have everything. But when it comes now to the public itself, it doesn't have anything. So that brings that gap. And I tell you, if the government continues this way, education is now getting commercialized even further. Because now it is for the rich who can afford for the private school, because the parents are fighting for the quality education. Because if you don't do quality education with the CBC, your child will end up flopping in life forever, especially the basic.
Aren't we missing the point altogether? Because the whole intention was to ensure that education is an equalizer, not for the rich only. But now, as it says, we've just worsened the situation and ensured if you don't have money, then you're not getting anything.
I think it's getting worse. Because now when you look at CBC it requires a lot of support. Parents and teacher support. We've seen parents actually saying CBC is expensive, because actually a lot of materials are actually required. With the current economic times, I think some parents are not even going to be able to actually support their children in areas where, because you see, in CBC, there are points where you're told to print this, do this with your parents. Right now, Kenyans are struggling. They're wondering, am I going to buy unga, or am I going to go do printing for my son or child? it's a debate where you have to actually ask yourself, are you going to buy books? Or are you going to even buy a shoe for that child to go to school? It's a very good area. It's a very good system, but it requires an empowered population. Because right now, as it goes, the few parents who can actually afford private schools are the ones who are going to see value of CBC. For a parent somewhere in Baringo who cannot even access a phone, being told, take a picture of your son washing dishes and printing this, go to a swimming pool. Those are areas where we need to actually sit down and actually localize this kind of CBC curriculum.
Were we too ambitious in this endeavor to pursue a new curriculum that we forgot to look at the nitty-gritties? Because the government is already struggling with even meeting 100% capitation as pledged. You look at schools, and out of the 22,000 that they had pledged for each learner, even in secondary school, they're only able to manage about 17,000 against a demand of 30,000 by the high school teachers. That means the government is already struggling. If you're saying that this CBC is resource intensive and the government is already struggling, were we too ambitious? Is it time to relook and say we cannot afford this system?
As I said before, there is no time. We don't have opportunity or luxury to go back. What we need to do is forge forward, make sure that what is on the way, it is working. Because what we do now with the students who have already done standard 7, would they go back now and they sit for KCSE, KCP, so that they can transition to Form 1? So what we need to do is make sure the government has a lot of work to do. And as he says about, you are talking about private, public. Look at some communities, like we come from Kitengela. The population is so high, where we only have 3 public schools. Therefore, the business-minded people, they have to think of commercializing education, because you can't have children walking like 7 kilometers to school when you can put up a school there and parents will bring their children there. So if the government really wants to do away with private school, which I don't think it is going to work, they have to think of bringing schools next to the community. We have population growing, and we can't have population growing with the same number of schools that were there when the population was at 37 million, when we are at 50.
What I'm hearing from you is that this burden goes back to the parent.
It goes
that the parent has no has no way out.
The parent is not going to.
You have to raise money to educate your child, and most probably it's not in a public school, it is in a private school. Is that what you're saying?
No, if public can still do better, you see, a parent will have no option, because the parent will look at, for example, at Kitengela, we have only 3 public schools, and a child has to walk a long distance, and this parent is saying the child is wasting fast time and will not get quality grade. So the parent ends up taking this child to a private school. But now the problem is how many parents can afford the private schools. For example, the CBC, I am still talking about CBC. If the government does not work on those 3 things, the resources, that is the human resource, the teachers, number 2, the facilities, and then the curriculum to be well implemented, especially the learning areas. Because the ones who came up with around 15 learning areas. So what has changed that they have decided to merge because of the teacher-student ratio. I heard that he will employ 20,000, that is the CS through the president, 20,000 more teachers. So my question, is it employment or internship?
I think also it's important that we come up with this discussion.
Yes.
Let us just admit that the route of government, actually, it should admit at the moment that actually we didn't make a good decision by trying to domicile JSS at primary school. They should just admit and take these learners to secondary schools. Because now, when you look at the merging of those areas, Before merging, those teachers are actually in secondary school. Like computer studies, the teachers are there. Business studies, the teachers are there. Home science, the teachers are there in high school. Why don't they just decide, we got into power, we were a bit excited, we wanted to excite the common mwananchi, but now I think reality has come to us. We need to do what is right for the education sector. And what is right for the education sector is to take JSS to secondary schools. Instead of trying to actually stick to what the mistake you did, just decide, Magua was right. Magua had prepared classes for us. Magua had prepared laboratories for us. Let us just have a sectoral meeting where we can have all players in the education sector come in, and let's try and see how we can be able to take these learners to secondary schools. Because that is where they're going to be helped.
We had the Presidential Working Party, and they seem not to see the need for that.
I think I still come from a different school of thought. During that time when we are having the first KCSE, they were doing standard 6 and they were to go to high school. It is the same time we had still KCPE. Do you want to tell me that the student who did KCSE in standard 6 and those who did KCPE the same year would fit in the same high school and depopularizing the primary school? Because look, we had standard 8 in between, like those who did the exam this year. You want now to tell me that the class 6 would go to class 7 in, let's say, in Starehe Boys?
Meet with this,
but the classes were already prepared. The classes were already there for these learners. I don't think that
it's every school that had all that, but the primary school had rooms for standard 7. What didn't you have the rooms standard 7 and standard 8?
They were available.
They were there. Even if
private schools may have done so, but public schools still did not have that kind of space in the primary school.
Primary school, what?
Public primary.
There was still rooms for standard 7 anyway, where they just moved into. So I think there would have been huge population of fast learners in high school, that we had standard 7 in high school and Form 1 in high school.
Okay, because there seems to be a lot of divergent ideas on how our education system should be conducted. We seem to not agree with the Presidential Working Party and some of their proposals, yet that was a very high level process. Are we saying that we need a national discussion just to look at our education system? Education is probably the most important sector in our society, probably only ahead of health. Bonotenyo, do you think it's time for us to have a national discussion in as far as our handling of education matters?
Yeah, we really need to, because if the government can't really provide that basic education, it's talking about teachers' employment now, like my friend has emphasized on the issue of politicizing education. Now we tell these teachers that go pick letters from your MP, and then who should post the teachers? Because you end up, as he said, some schools will have more teachers than other schools. So you find that this school is overpopulated with teachers. This one has none. Number 2 is about, I'm still talking about the facilities. Like she has said, we did not take JSS to secondary only because of the buildings or facilities. But I also want to maybe pose a question. So this is a primary school, is hosting the JSS. Look at the labs. Do they have the labs? The home science labs, are they there? Yeah. The resources for teachers, for example, now the home science teachers. If you take this to high school, because you have home science teacher can still teach biology, so you have already combined those 2 areas into one. Now you find that as the teachers are becoming less and less in junior secondary, the more areas are getting to be added in the learning path. Okay. So how do we end up that? My proposal was the government to just work on building the resources, the facilities, or employ more teachers.
And because of time, I'll give you each about a minute or so to give your final words. But should we also consider protecting the education policy from political interference, probably through legislation, to ensure that once the education system goes this way, even if we have a change of government, that does not change. Probably we should consider that. As you make your final comments, let's start.
Yeah, I think the moment we move from politics and we leave politicians for policymakers making, but delivery of this should be left to the people who are engaged and who are supposed to do that. What we saw yesterday about having politicians promising teachers in different areas, and as he has said about bursaries. Now that means that if you don't know your member of parliament and you are a teacher and you are head teacher, you don't know your member of parliament, then your school is not going to get more teachers. And yes, if you are a parent and you don't know your member of parliament, you're not going to get bursary. So capitation should be left for all and not for politics. And as you said, discussion. How long are we going to keep on discussing? How long are we going to have this kind of panels talking about what should be done? We now need to move from discussion to implementation. And implementation is not going to be done by a politician who is going to be there for 5 years, and then next year he's not even seen by his community because he's changing. It needs to be left to the people who are employed, who are there for, like, we have Beru Kipsang. He doesn't change. He's there forever. So if you're talking about education, you're not even going to ask, I'm sorry to say this, the minister. The person who learns education is not the minister. It's the technocrat. Okay. They are the people we need to question. But since the country is run by politicians, because the population, the popularity, and we see them, and we sing and we shout, we praise them, and today Mashagu is in Minister of Education, tomorrow he's going to be in another ministry, where we still see him making those kind of promises, when I don't think he will understand the ministry in a one day thing, yeah.
Okay. David?
I think for me, just the discussion was about KCSE. I think for me, I would just like to close by saying, congratulating all the learners who did their best. When I say did their best, I mean those learners who actually put in the effort. Because as you see, the ones are being interviewed by the media, they're talking about one thing. They woke up early, they went an extra mile. So I'm just trying to talk to those learners who did the same, but did not get the good grades they're expecting. If you did the hours, you did the extra work, you tried as much as you can, but you didn't get the national podium, or you didn't get the media. In anything you'll do, put in the same effort anywhere you go. Even if it's a technical school or wherever you go, try as much as you can to put in the same effort. So that don't give up, don't think you didn't make it now to the national podium, that, there are those who at one point or another, they were being called bookwormers. If you did that and you pushed yourself and got what you got, congratulations to you. Because you'll never live life asking yourself, what if? You did it, and you did your best. To now, civil society, we always known to be, or tried to be called to try and put issues where there are no issues. But this time I want just to talk about the political process in education. Let us not allow politicians to take over our education system. Elimu yetu tutaichunga. As common wananchi, let us protect our education. Let us invest in that local school. Let us try and know what is happening in that local school. Join the BOM boards. Try and see that learner who is not in school, why are they not in school? That school that doesn't have teachers, why don't they not have teachers? Try as much as you can to be involved. Even if your child is in a private school, but you see a local school that is running down, do not ignore that school.
Okay.
Well, that school is going to now release the learners who are, those are your relatives, those are your people who are going to be living in the village. And they say when you educate a child, you actually ensure yourself of security.
Okay. Thank you so much, David. And finally, Bonotenyo.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to congratulate the KCSE 2023 candidates for their performance. Whether good or whether bad is good and bad based on what you assess. So go and pursue your dreams regardless of what you scored. However, keep pushing. Number two, I will also request the government to do more of capitation as it has been raised by the civil society, and let it be open. If there is no money, tell people that there's no money, and we'll all do the same, because failure to that, the gap still, I'm still talking about the private schools. They will still end up taking the bigger share. But now because the parents can't afford, they end up affecting the learners' progress. However, I also want to now wish the KCSE as they proceed to grade 8 a good life there. Yes, I do hope that the government has employed more teachers, because now there are now 2 classes, grade 7 and grade 8. If we go with that way again, it will end up flopping. Then the capitation again for the JSS, I will wish the government to also do more on the same. So thank you
so
much.
Please,
about 30 seconds probably.
Yes. I want to think and speak to those we are calling that they have failed. I want to say that this is not the end of everything. They still can pick from there. There is an opportunity if somebody needs to repeat, and maybe you did your exam when you are sick, you still can do it. There is an opportunity you have. It's not like standard 8. I want to tell them that let this not define you. There is an opportunity where you can get to Polytechnic and move from doing certificate, diploma, and still you're going to get the degree that you wanted. Okay. I'm also going to talk about the special needs. Please, parents, we need to, and the government, everything, we need to give focus and support to these children.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nancy Munyi, founder and principal, Rare Gem Talent. Frederick Otenyo, educationist with the Kitengela International School, and David Karani, member Elimu Bora Working Group. Our panelists this morning as we discuss the KCSE and the entire education sector, issues surrounding education in our country this year and going forward. This is a big discussion that we'll continue having, and thank you so much for your very well considered opinions on this matter. Let's now take a look at the editorial comment this morning as we come to the end of the session. Now, the ongoing standoff involving over 20,000 intern teachers in junior secondary schools across the country is not merely a labor dispute. It is a distress signal demanding immediate attention from the government. These educators have made their stance clear, refusing to resume work due to a multitude of grievances surrounding the implementation of the competency-based curriculum. One of the primary concerns raised by these teachers pertains to their contracts. The initial agreement promised to upgrade to full employment after the first year, yet the government reneged on this commitment, requiring an additional year under the same terms. The educators have further voiced serious apprehensions about recent developments with the curriculum implementation. They assert that the clustering of various teaching areas has rendered their responsibilities unmanageable. What is disconcerting, however, is the collateral damage inflicted on the learners, particularly the inaugural CBC cohort now entering grade 8. These young minds are unwittingly subjected to an education system mad in uncertainty, resembling a poorly financed experiment. Experts who are instrumental in formulating the CBC have sounded the alarm, cautioning that the current trajectory spells impending catastrophe for the education system. It raises pertinent questions. Should authorities persist in their current implementation strategy without pause for introspection? Is it justifiable to subject an entire cohort of learners to an educational framework devoid of coherence and structure? The burden, obviously, is unfairly shifting to the parents who are compelled to invest their resources in a system plagued by confusion and deficiencies. Yet the new curriculum was to be a beacon of progress, one that would enhance the quality of education.